months that seems like it has no end in sight, should you download a couple of dating apps? Should you get rid of a couple dating apps? Should you just be dating to marry and settle for nothing less than the perfect partner? Or should you avoid the idea of dating altogether until you get your shit sorted out? There are so many questions to ask yourself as a person in their early 20s. But, if you're like me, a lot of those questions might have to do with relationships and finding that special somebody. So today, I just wanted to talk about a couple of my thoughts and opinions on reasons I could see being valid for staying out of a relationship or just casually dating at most. Or a few other reasons that it might be beneficial for you to try a relationship of some kind, serious or not so serious, for some of the reasons that I am going to get into. So, for context, and before context actually, for those of you who might remember, and you probably don't because it's been a long ass time since I posted a video, I have a really hard time whispering this softly and controlling my breath. So if you see me back up from the mic for a second to take a breath, just to know that I am doing it because I have no other choice. And if I don't, I am going head first through this fucking camera and passing out. So now for the context. I am currently in a relationship. Last time I posted I wasn't, but now I am, and I have been dating this girl for a little over 5 months now, and I am extremely happy. I really love this girl. I could not ask for anything more from her or the relationship, but prior to that, I was single for a little over 2 years, and before that, was actually in a relationship of just about 4 years. 4 years, that is a long time. So, of course, take everything I say with a grain of salt because everybody's different, and especially in relationships, people have their own preferences and opinions on love. It's a very subjective feeling, but I think I have a decent variety of experience in terms of having been with somebody for a very, very, very long time, having been alone for a while, from 21 to 23 and a half, and now being in a new relationship that I am a lot happier in and feel a lot more mature in. So, let's cut the shit and get straight to my reasons. So the first thing I'm going to start with is a reason why I think you might want to consider spending some time alone or just casually dating in your 20s. And of course, I'm speaking to early 20s because I'm only 23, but I feel like this is still applicable to people in their 20s in general, and honestly even late teens. But I digress. My reason that I think it might be a good idea to stay single for at least a bit of your 20s is because you have so fucking much to learn about yourself and your life, and so much to figure out about what you want to do and the kind of world you want to create for yourself. Where do I even start? I mean, whether it's school or friends or work or health or family or hobbies or finances or belief systems and values say that focusing on a relationship or trying to find somebody or even just trying to make time to try to find somebody is a valuable use of your very, 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 very limited resources. If you see me looking down, it's because I took a bunch of notes on my computer so that I could have things to talk about and not go up on a rant and get way the fuck off track, so that's where I'm looking. But I wrote something that I feel is a good way to kind of encapsulate this stage of your life, which is that you are in a stage of life where you feel like you have the whole world in your hands, but you have no home to live in. But you have no home to live in. No home to live in. Now, for some people, that could literally be the case. You might be looking for an apartment because you're moving out of your parents. You might be living in a dorm. You might be living in a house with friends. You might be living nowhere at all because the things happen. But I, of course, mean that a little more metaphorically. And, you know, you are a young person who has recently come into a lot of freedom, most likely, and you have to decide how you want to use that freedom. Do you want to try and get ahead in your career? Do you want to try and make new friends because you live in a new city? Do you want to try and make new friends in the same city that you've lived in your entire life? Do you want to move out of the country? Do you want to try and get in shape? Do you want to start running marathons? Do you want to start investing in a 401k or the stock market? Do you want to not do any of that and try and find your soulmate? People are so different. And of course, I hate to bring this up because it's so cliche, but in a time where literally all of us are online all the time, I mean, you're watching me on YouTube right now talk about stuff like this, in a time where you are constantly exposed to the opinions and suggestions of others who are your age or a close age to you, it can be really, really fucking hard, honestly impossible to figure out what you actually want. And I guess the point I'm really trying to make here is that in the midst of all this uncertainty, it can be very stressful to think about adding a relationship into that mix. Because relationships take a lot of work and effort themselves. They require time, they require money, they require energy, they require emotions, they require giving up other things in a sense to make them work. And I don't want to sound pessimistic when I say that because relationships are incredible. There were plenty of moments in my first relationship where I was extremely happy and fulfilled, and up until, at the point I'm in my relationship right now, it's still relatively new, but I am so happy, and it is worth every bit of time, money, energy, whatever it is that I have to put into it because I really like this girl, and I see a future with her. So, not to say that none of that is worth it, but you're at a point in your life where you're trying to figure out what is worth it. Is it worth it to pick up extra shifts to have a little extra money so that you can try and move into a new place? Is it worth it to ditch your friend group because they've been shitty to you for years now and you're not in high school anymore, so you don't have to stay with them because you don't have to see them every day anymore? I'm giving a lot of different examples, so I'm going to try and kind of rein it in here. But in my experience, having spent the last 2 years alone before I started dating this new girl, sorry, I almost burped. I almost honestly might have thrown up right there. What was I saying? In the 2 years that I say I couldn't have while I was in a relationship, but that I just didn't think about or even come across while I was with somebody else. I started reading. I started making videos. I started running. I started going to the gym more. I started spending more time with family. I started making new friends. I started traveling a little bit more. And a lot of those things, honestly, are harder when you're with somebody, because you have to consider their lives, their schedules, their feelings, their situations, their everything, if you want to be in a good relationship, of course. So, this isn't to say that you will never have the opportunity to make any of these changes again in your life, should you decide to be in a relationship in your 20s, but, we are all like little pliable pieces of plastic that can be molded much more easily at this point in our lives than later on when we come across all of those fun adult obligations and requirements, like having a full-time job and potentially taking care of kids and sick relatives and fixing your house on the weekends if you buy a house, or having to get relocated for work, or just all the shit that my parents have seemed to have to deal with in the last 20 years that I dread dealing with. Of course, this isn't everybody's situation, but I think a lot of us do have time to think through the kind of life that we really want to have, and the opportunity to start laying some of that foundation to build a beautiful home on. And so, I think if that is something that you're worried about, and you are in a position where you have a few different things you want to focus on, it is completely valid to say, I just don't want to add a relationship to this right now. I don't think I can give myself to this person in the way that they deserve. In fact, not to get too vulnerable myself, because I do like to keep most things to myself, but that was a big reason why my first relationship came to an end, was because I felt like I had to figure myself out, and that for as long as I was giving a substantial part of myself to somebody else, that I just wouldn't be able to do that. And it was really shitty, because I always felt like a terrible person saying that, especially because I had been with this girl since high school and for a few years at that point. But it ended up being the right decision, and I am so glad I took a couple years for myself, because now not only am I in a better position as an individual, I'm more independent, I'm more focused, I'm happier with my habits, I'm happier with the way I conduct myself and manage my emotions, but I am able to do all of those things while having a relationship, because I knew how to do them by myself first. So I think learning how to cultivate some of those things by yourself before taking them to a partner is important. But that leads me perfectly into my first reason as to why being in a relationship in your 20s can be a super beneficial and formative experience. And that is because figuring out what kind of partner you want and what kind of partner you want to be in a relationship could be considered just as important as any of the things I just listed. Because of course, if you're like me at least, at the end of the day, you want to take these things that you've learned and these habits that you've formed and this success that you've found and this progress that you've made and these perspectives that you've gained, and you want to share that happiness and those experiences and experiences with somebody you love and care about, and getting to share their experiences. But, it's hard to do that if you don't date people or talk to people, or at least put yourself out there and get yourself in positions to figure out what you want and what you don't want. So unfortunately, and as you will come to see is a theme of this video, the concept of trial and error is really what it's all about, in my opinion. In the same way that you don't know what kind of work you want to take up as a career until you've tried out a few different jobs, or you don't know what kind of friend group you want to have until you've come across different people and had falling outs, or made new best friends, or had different experiences with your current ones. Or maybe in the same way that you don't know what kind of workouts you like to do until you've tried a couple different ones. In my opinion, again, of course, it is impossible to figure out what kind of person you want to date and potentially marry someday if you don't have at least a little bit of experience beforehand. One of the best things about being in a long-term relationship before my current one, or having those couple years of being alone and talking to a couple people before I ended up in the relationship I'm in now, is that I got plenty of opportunities and experiences interacting with different girls, and I got the chance to see some characteristics that I really liked in some of those girls. I found some that I really did not like in other girls, and I found some that I had never even considered in a couple people. I don't know if I just made myself sound like a promiscuous, because I didn't talk to that many people, truthfully, but I felt like I interacted with enough people to the point that when it came time to make a decision about whether I wanted to be with the girl I'm dating now or not, I felt confident in my judgment, and I felt confident in the person that she was, and I felt capable of entering into a relationship, and I felt like I could trust that I was making the right choice because I had had different experiences with different people before. And this, again, is a hard concept because, of course, none of us want to enter into a relationship or a talking stage or just a casual conversation with a person that we might like, thinking in our heads, oh, well, this probably won't work out, but, at least I'm going to get good experience from it. That is a little depressing, and it doesn't leave you feeling particularly hopeful. But. Once you can see past that feeling of regret that might come from something not working out, whether it's your fault or the other person's, you will also come to see that you are ultimately just working your way towards that perfect person. And you are collecting data that is informing you on the type of person you want to find. It is hard to find that perfect person when you don't know what your definition of perfect entails, what characteristics that person has, or what kind of lifestyle they have, or what kind of values they hold. The best way to find that out, in my opinion, is to put yourself out there a little bit and go see for yourself. Unless, of course, you are just the luckiest motherfucker of all time and you end up dating and marrying the first person you ever like, and that's pretty fucking sick if that's any of you, but that wasn't me, so again, this is just based on my experience. So, before we move on to my next point, I will once more leave you with this. Don't be too hard on yourself when you are getting into new relationships at this stage in your life. They are meant to be exciting and difficult and confusing and frustrating and joyous and every other word you can use to describe a situation, because they're new experiences. And I just, like I said in my last video, I'm such a sucker for love and relationships, and I'm so happy right now. I'm way happier in this position than I was when I was single, but I don't think I could have ever been in this position had I not put myself out there in the ways that I did and learned about the ways that I wanted to be treated by somebody as well as the ways that I wanted to treat somebody else. It's a two-way street. Of course, we all want to find out what things about other people we like, and we want to find the best set of characteristics and whatnot on another person, and hopefully end up with them, but you also have to learn about how you want to be loved by somebody else, and how you want somebody to talk to you when you're upset, and how you want somebody to interact with you when you're happy, and how you want to go about life with other people. So, relationships can be extremely valuable in the sense that they can teach you all about yourself. Now, speaking about yourself, this leads me to my second point, which is going to be the second reason as to why I think it is important to spend some time alone in your 20s or your late teens, or honestly any stage of life. But again, this is just for the 20-somethings because I am a 20-something. It is so important to learn how to be alone. This is probably the most uncomfortable part of being single. At least it was for me. And it is really the idea of learning how not to depend on somebody else and to only depend on yourself. Especially when you're going through shit. I will tell you what, I don't think, I think few things built my character as much in the 2 years that I was single as learning how to go through a really shitty day by myself and not have anybody to talk to about it. And that was actually the hardest part about being single after being in a relationship for 4 years, was that I no longer had somebody to quote unquote come home to at the end of the day. You know, prior to that, when I was dating this girl, if I had a bad day, I would FaceTime her because we were long distance, or I would text her, or I would plan a visit to her, or she would plan a visit to me, or we would send emails or voice notes to one another. I had so many different ways that I could, and this is the truth, offload my emotional baggage or my shitty feelings onto somebody else when I was in a relationship. Not to say I made all my problems her problems, although I think I was guilty of that many times, but I really did not have to go through anything by myself because I always had somebody else to go through it with. And so when that relationship ended and I no longer had somebody to turn to when every bad day was the end of the world, and learn how to continue living my life when I didn't have a lot of hope about things, honestly. Learning how to be alone, I think, one, emotionally is super important, but two, just functionally going through your day-to-day life and not depending on somebody else to give you advice or to tell you what to do with your life or to serve as a shoulder to lean on when things might not be going so well, or to be somebody you report something straight to when a great thing happens in your life is important. But I want to focus more on the emotional part of it because that's where I noticed the biggest change in my life. Slowly, 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 but painfully, 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 I was able to learn all about the kind of person I was. Because it's kind of like a math experiment or a science experiment. You isolate the independent variable, and you are the independent variable, and you find out everything about yourself when there's nobody around you to influence any of your emotions or actions. You learn how to cope with negative emotions. You learn how to go to bed without talking to somebody else. You learn how to wake up without saying good morning to somebody. You learn how to build good habits all by yourself. You learn how to get rid of bad habits all by yourself. You learn how to communicate with friends and family all by yourself. And as a result of that, you learn all about yourself. And kind of like the last point I made where you're collecting data, you collect a bunch of data on yourself and it's completely clean because it's all about you and it's not impacted by anybody else. And you get to go and take all that data you've collected and measured on yourself, all those things you figured out about yourself, and you get to decide where you want to take it. Sorry, I have to restart my camera recording really quick. It caps out at 30 minutes. So, the level of independence and self-control and emotional awareness and maturity that you cultivate by being by yourself was easily the best part of being single for me. And because of that, I am able to conduct myself as a mature and capable and resilient person within my relationship and not make the problems that I come across now my girlfriends. And one caveat I want to add is that this isn't me saying you should only get into a relationship if you feel like you can handle everything on your own, and that you should never bring any of your problems to your partner, because that is a normal part of a loving and healthy relationship. Having a support system and being a support system for your significant other. I'm telling you, this whispering is bugging me up. For your significant other. All I'm saying is, if you take that time to learn how to do all of those things by yourself, whether it's things like literally making your bed, or cooking, or cleaning, or doing your monthly investments, or going to the gym by yourself, or going to parties by yourself, or making new friends because you don't have anybody else to lean on anymore. That's actually something I was so guilty of with my ex-girlfriend. Was when I started my freshman year at college. I went to the University of Nevada, Reno, feel compelled to make new friends or go out with any potential new friends because I had my girlfriend, so I would just stay in and FaceTime her. And for some people, that's enough, and that's fine. To each their own. But a couple years later, when the relationship ended, I felt like I had just depended on her entirely too much, and that I had lost out on other friendships or habits or hobbies because I had invested almost all of myself into her in that relationship. And I regret it a little bit. Obviously, I can't change it, but I just think it's important to spend some time by yourself because there's no better way to figure out who you are than to have nobody to talk to but you, and nobody to be accountable to but you. So, with that being said, the flip side of that coin is that it's also, and this is a reason number two, why I think being in a relationship in your 20s is a great thing, is because it's also important to learn how to balance your life and your life's problems while being in a relationship with somebody else. Water break. As most of you probably know, your life doesn't just remain perfect, although it may feel that way for a bit when you enter into a new relationship. Your job, your bank account, your family, your friends, your hobbies, your mental health, your physical health, all those things I listed earlier in the video, they keep on spinning with the rest of the world. And you can't just ignore them. And of course, they're not going to let themselves be ignored. Things are going to come up at work. Things are going to come up with friends. Things are going to come up with finances. Things are going to come up with your future and your past and your present. And you will still have to deal with them because that's just what life is. So, as important as it is to learn how to deal with all of these problems by yourself, you could really make the case that it is just as, if not more, important to learn how to deal with those things while dating somebody. And I guess important isn't the right word, because truthfully, it can be even more difficult than learning how to do life by yourself, is the idea of learning how to do life with somebody else. Before I started dating my girlfriend, this is just, the hope was fucking romantic in me, but for some reason I had this crazy idealistic version of my future in my head, where I envisioned that my next girlfriend, or the person that I wanted to marry, which I think she is, by the way, would literally just fix everything. I would never be stressed out anymore. I would never worry about anything anymore. All of the remaining puzzle pieces in my life would slide into place perfectly, because I would have found the centerpiece of the entire puzzle, the hardest piece to find. And I just had this idea in my head that when I found that piece, that everything else would just come together. You can probably tell where I'm going with this, but I am still missing a lot of fucking pieces in my puzzle. And if my girlfriend were here, she would tell you that I spend at least 1 or 2 days every couple weeks telling her that I have no fucking idea what I'm doing with my life, and that I just feel so lost and confused, and that I don't know what I want to do for work, and that I don't really love what I'm doing for work, and that I feel like I should make more should just live completely in the moment for the rest of my life, and a million other thoughts every day. My point is that your life problems don't go away because your relationship's problem, let me restart that because that was about to be a fucking bar. Your life problems don't go away because your relationship problems did. A perfect partner does not make for a perfect life. So, it's important to learn how to coexist with your partner and work on all of the things that you spend so much time on when you were alone, and to continue to grow in those areas of your life, while also nurturing a healthy, loving, happy, supportive relationship where you give attention and respect to your partner. The last thing you want to be, and I'm sure all of you know at least one of these types of people in your life, or all of you know somebody who acts like this, is what I mean. The last thing you want to be is somebody who encounters a problem and makes it everybody else's problem. I swear to God, those are some of the most unbearable fucking people I have ever come across. The person who gets a flat tire and spends the entire night complaining about it, or can't go to the gym because there was a power outage, and goes online and just bitches and moans about it, or gets cheated on. Okay, complaining is kind of valid in that situation, but you know what I mean. Has something come up in their life and just obsesses over it and lets it dominate your conversations and take over your friendship. You don't want to be that person for your partner. I'm telling you, you don't. I'm begging you, please don't be that person. So, in order to not be that person, you have to be that person. Unfortunately. At least, that's what I think. It's the same thing, that trial and error thing. In my first relationship, I think there were many times where I would obsess over my problems, and my early 20-something existential crises that I would go through bi-weekly. And I would let them consume me. And of course, if you let something consume you, it's inevitable that it's going to affect your partner as well. And again, I think a certain degree of that is healthy in a relationship, and I think the right person will want to help you and support you and be there for you. But, like anything else in life, there is a balance. There is a fine line. And the only way to learn where that line is and where you want to draw it is to get stabbed by the proverbial pencil that you will be drawing the line with in the future. It's a sad truth of life, and it is probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned in my life as an independent, sentient human being with a mind of their own, is that the best way to learn is by bucking up. That's it. So, admittedly, it's a lot worse to fuck up when it involves somebody else, especially somebody else you like. But, don't be afraid to make mistakes, because those mistakes are what are going to take you to the next level as a person and bring you closer to the kind of person you want to be. Not just as a partner, but as a person, an individual with their own life and their own problems and their own desires and their own fears. And yeah, like I said, I'm currently learning this line with my girlfriend. Thankfully, I did have a couple years to myself and the opportunity to learn how to figure my own shit out without being accountable to anybody else. But, I am still far from perfect in terms of managing my problems and not, about them a little too often every once in a while, or letting them bother me to the point where I'm acting like a shell of myself to my girlfriend, and she asks me what the fuck is going on. So, that brings me to my third, and final reason as to why I think it's okay to be single at some point in your life. Your life being your 20s, because right now I feel like I've been in my 20s for my entire life, and I don't remember a day before I turned 20. It all just feels like it's happened in the last 3 years. But that point is that relationships are expensive. And when I say expensive, I don't just mean in terms of money. They are also expensive in terms of time, effort, energy, emotions, and personal development. Whether you're in a good relationship or a bad relationship, a lot of commitment is required from you. A lot more if the relationship is bad, to be honest. So, to give a personal example, towards the end of my first relationship, although things weren't going the best for a number of reasons, I started to feel like I was spending so much fucking time, like all of my time, on the relationship and my ex, and trying to make her happy, and trying to make myself happy, or trying to appease her, or appease myself, or trying to hide my frustration, or trying to uncover her frustrations. That, truthfully, after we would get off the phone, or at the end of the night when we'd be laying in bed together, I would just stare at the ceiling, because I felt so fucking exhausted. I just, mentally, I could not think about anything else but how to make things work. And of course, that's because things weren't going well. But even when things were going well, and to reference my current relationship, despite the fact that things are going super well with my girlfriend, I still spend a lot of time, and I spend money, and I spend effort committing myself to the relationship, and making her happy, and still trying to make myself happy, and investing in our future together, and investing in experiences and opportunities to see each other, because we're long distance. I don't know what I did in a past life to deserve this, but yes, both relationships I've been in have been long distance, and unfortunately, it has never gotten easier. So, yeah. Anyways, what I really want to focus on when I bring this point up is that mentally, relationships are expensive. It's just hard to focus on other things, whether it's work or school or hobbies or friends or family or self-care, mental health, physical health, whatever it may be. It's hard to focus on those things when you've got somebody else to focus on as well. Not to say it is impossible, because of course it is. But that is to say, because it's difficult, and for some people, the difficulty is not worth the rewards. The risk is not worth the reward. For some people, and I think, again, that this is completely respectable, their time would be better spent completely devoting their limited resources to themselves, because although I said at the beginning of this video that your early 20s are a time where you come into so much freedom and potentially more money because you're working, and more opportunities and more life experiences and more everything, just more life. You come into because your rent is expensive. You might not have a lot of friends because you just aren't that outgoing, or because you had a falling out with a friend group, or because you just moved to a new city and you don't know a single fucking person there. You might not have a lot of life experience yet because you're in your 20s, you're a baby in the world still, and you haven't had the opportunity to travel or meet people or come into your own, have your own coming of age moment. So, while you have so much in your 20s, it also feels like you have so little. And it can be hard to sit there and say, well, I'm going to take what little resources I have and just give them to somebody else that I'm not even sure it's going to work out with. I don't think there is anything wrong with having that mindset. Of course, it isn't the most positive or hopeful, but sometimes you have to put yourself first, especially if you're working with limited resources. So, if you are one of those people, which I was, like right after my first relationship ended, I felt like I did not have anything going for me. I wasn't working a ton. I mentally was just a fucking train wreck, largely because the relationship had ended, but just generally speaking, I had very limited mental bandwidth to work with. A lot of my friendships had honestly been affected towards the end of that relationship, so I felt like I didn't have as many people to talk to. And so if you had asked me at that point in time if I wanted to just pick it up and start talking to somebody else, I would have just gone glass-eyed and stared right through you, because I would have thought back to what I had just gone through and the fact that it felt like it had left me with nothing for myself. But, of course, for every reason to not get into a relationship, there is at least one more to get into one, at least in my world. Honestly, in my world, for every one reason to stay single, there are 1,000 to date somebody. The right person, of course. But my final reason that I would suggest, if not seriously dating, just casually dating people in your 20s, is because the best things in life are not free. The best things in life aren't free. Let me explain. A good relationship requires a lot of things of you. We just established that. It may require time. What kind of fucking statement was that? It does require time. It requires money. It doesn't have to be a lot, but I still think it requires some, especially if you're a guy. It requires your emotions, your resources, your everything that I just talked about that you don't have a lot of. But, in my opinion, and from my experience, those things that you put so much of yourself into, that you actually see some sort of positive outcome from, are the most gratifying experiences ever. Let me be more specific. It was just Valentine's Day last week, and I planned this whole special day for my girlfriend and I won't say what exactly we did, but I went full try hard because I wanted it to be a special day, and it was her first real Valentine's Day, so I put the time in. I spent 2 weeks planning the day that we had. We ended up going and staying somewhere else for a night, and going to dinner, the whole 9 yards. To see how excited she was, and the smile on her face, and how appreciative she was, and how much it meant to her, made everything I put into that worth 1,000,000 times more. Truthfully, honest to God. I think it's just like anything relationship, and feelings of trust and loyalty and communication and respect and optimism about a future with your partner. It's not from nothing. It's because you put in the time. And of course, I'm talking about this like it's any other thing, like going to the gym or putting in time at a new job or going out and trying to meet new friends. But when you make the effort and it is reciprocated, it's truly one of the greatest feelings ever. And to be able to experience joy and happiness and love with somebody else, honestly, I think that is one of the rarest and most beautiful things that a person can experience. And so, while it may require sacrifice and a little bit of discomfort and uncertainty and just general confusion and stress, putting yourself fully, investing yourself completely into a relationship and giving it all that you've got to make it work and to make that other person happy is a beautiful thing. And though it may not work out in some cases, that's the kind of person that I want to be. I have a feeling that if you made it this far in the video, that that's also the kind of person you want to be. Not just for yourself, but for your partner and for that person that you hope to end up with. The effort is always worth it in the end, no matter what, because you either end up with the right person or you learn something about yourself that helps you get to the right person. I really, 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 really think that. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there and to take that extra step to make an effort with somebody, even if you're not sure how it's going to work out. Because I promise you, it is worth it. Okay guys, that just about does it for me. Again, those are just my thoughts and opinions, so don't use them as Bible. I doubt you will, but this is just such a fascinating topic to me because, as I've mentioned several times, I love, and I am very, very, very happy with the girl that I am dating. But, I think that is the result of the time I had to spend by myself and alone and learning about my life. So, I felt like it would make sense to talk about my experience and share it with you guys, and I really, really, really would love to know what you guys think. If you agreed with anything I said, if you disagreed with anything I said, if you think I'm a complete dumbass, whatever it may be, I would love to know what you think about this topic. I would love to know your outlook, your perspective, because of course I'm not saying that I have the answers, and I'm always looking for more answers. Unfortunately, I have a crippling addiction to trying to find one sentence or idea that will solve all my life's problems. So, one last thing before I go. We are all so young. If you're watching this, chances are you are in your early 20s or 20s in general. But again, don't be afraid to make mistakes. They may feel shitty in the moment, and they may feel shitty for many a moment following whatever goes down. relationship with somebody else and when you share your life with somebody else. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Okay guys, that's all I've got. I want to post another video again soon, so if you have any recommendations for me on topics you want to see, or maybe I thought about doing like a librarian roleplay because I have a lot of books and I love reading. I fucking love reading, so I could just talk about books to no end. But if you have any other ideas or things you want me to talk about, let me know and I will look for your comments. So if you made it this far, thank you so much. That is so sick. I appreciate you, and I will see you again soon.